Hello Internet! My name is GothicLogicK and we are back once again for some more low ball draw tomfoolery. Today here in this game you can see that it is another heads up sit and go, and in this game we are playing a game called Badugi, which I expect most of you will not have played to any real extent or another, if ever heard of. And so, whilst we gently fold most of our opening hands because we've not had anything of value here, let me talk you through the rules. Much like, oh, we're getting instant re-raised here, and I'll get to explaining some strategy in a moment. So they stand pat, and so they probably have a Badugi. Of course, I've yet to explain what a Badugi is, and so I'm trying to get there, I swear. This is a draw game, much like fixed limit triple draw, where there are 3 draws and 4 rounds of betting. So it goes opening round of betting, draw 1, second round of betting, draw 2, third round of betting, final draw, final round of betting. And we're going to give up here. And so that's the structure. We're playing fixed limit, of course, as you can see. And so what is the goal? What hand are we trying to make? And so you'll see we have 4 cards in our hand. This is not Omaha, don't get confused. A Badugi is 4 unsuited cards of 4 different ranks. And so here we have 8-4 of different ranks. That's a 2-card Badugi. What we want is one of each suit, all in different ranks. So the nuts would be ace, deuce, tray, 4, one of each suit. That's the best hand you can make in the game. And so it is a low ball variant of draw, and there are some interesting ways in which the hand values stack up against each other when you get to showdowns with non-Badugi hands. And so our starting hand requirements, we're going to bet here because we're a card ahead, which you'll hear me say a lot in draw games. Our starting hand requirements are generally, so we're going to bet because now we've improved into a 3-card Badugi that is 6 low. I'll start the sentence again. Our starting hand requirements are generally at least 2 cards of different suits and different values lower than a 7. And so I'm just going to fold this because 8-6 low is not terribly good, and the values of the hands are so small that we can afford to fold. Excuse me while I readjust in my chair. And so here, the aces are great, but or one of the aces would be great, but the king and the 10 doesn't help us at all. We're just going to fold our button, start to build what appears to be a tight image, but of course, as soon as the blinds go up slightly, we will become more aggressive. And so, as I said, we're looking for as many cards as we can below a 7 of different suits. We want to be playing slightly wider on the button and less wide when we are in the big blind, because we will be out of position on all of the remaining streets. That means we will act first on all the remaining streets rather than acting last. We want to be on the button because we act last, because we get more information. And so we don't improve because we still only have 2 cards to our low hand, and so we're going to check. They also check. We will throw the 7 and the jack because they are no value to our hand at all. We will check again because we've caught a 10 and 8, which again, no value to our hand at all because that's 2 clubs and 2 hearts in our hand. We want a spade and a diamond ideally. And so we both drew 2 on the end here, and this is a slightly more advanced concept. At the moment we only have a 3-card hand, a deuce, tray, 6. And so the 9 doesn't play, we only make a 3-card hand. If our opponent has made a 3-card hand, our 6-low 3-card hand is probably better than their 3-card hand. And so that's why we bet, and we get called. And so that's an important distinction to make in a value bet. Let's just see, you won't be able to see this window, but they had a 6-5 deuce, we had a 6-3 deuce. Oh, no, we don't want to leave. We're going to fold that. And so they made a reasonably good call with a reasonable 3-card hand. It just so happens that we value betted a better 3-card hand and got paid for it. Not going to play just the 9 of hearts there, that's a pretty terrible hand. Ace 3-6 offsuit though is an excellent drawing hand. And so really there we have 5 outs, the deuce, 4, 7, deuce 4, 5, 7 and 8 of diamonds would make us a Badugi that we'd be happy to play to the river. It's probably worth noting in Hold'em or board flop games, you obviously have the flop, the turn and the river, the first action, the second action and the third action. I use the same terms in this game for the first draw, second draw and third draw, being flop, turn and river. It's just easier for everybody that way. We did draw 4 against their 2-card draw, and so we are going to call one street here and throw our 8 of spades and see if we can't catch a club that is 7 or lower and non-pairing. We don't, and the 6 is of course no value to us. And if they bet here, we'll be folding because the odds are nowhere near good enough for us to be carrying on trying to make a hand there. And so I hope my incredibly brief introduction has let you all figure out what's actually going on here. Just to reiterate, we're playing a fixed limit draw variant where there are 3 draws, 4 rounds of betting, and we are trying to make 4 unpaired, unsuited cards in our hand. If both players have 4 unpaired, unsuited cards, whoever has the lowest ranked card as their biggest card wins. And so if you've got a 7 low versus a 6 low, the 7 low wins. We're going to call here with our 6-5. It's a reasonably good 2-card draw, and you're going to actually be playing a lot of 2-card draws in this game. We are getting 5-1, and this is a cheap street, and so generally I prefer to draw onto the cheap street, even though we are a card behind, just because our hand is so smooth. 4 of diamonds, please. King of spades is not the 4 of diamonds, and we are just going to give up now. And so we are going to raise 3-6 on our button. We're obviously keeping the 3 of spades and not the 4 of spades because the 3 is the lower valued card. And so what I want to be very wary of in this game, we're going to raise our 4 deuce here. What I want to be very wary of is drawing to hands like Jack low and 10 low, because really they're not often going to be very good. And so our opponent drew 1 card, which is strange because they didn't lead out for the bet on this street, and so even though we have a very good drawing hand, we are going to check and see a card for free, given that our opponent is actually, or was a card ahead on the previous street. 3 of spades gives us the nuts. It's not the 3 of spades, and so we are going to lead out here simply because we have such a good 3-card hand that when we both draw 1 on this street, if both players miss, then we probably win with 4 deuce low. But I'm not going to let him try and check raise us here. If he has made his hand, I'm quite content to win the pot as it stands. And so our 3-card 4 does win. Of course the 10 doesn't play because we had 2 hearts in our hand, and the 10 was the higher of those hearts. Just for reference's sake, the other player there had a 3-card 8 low. We're going to fold just a naked 4 there. 3-card draws, traditionally not very strong for playing. Equally here, just a 3 is not going to be strong enough to want to carry on with. So in this, you might look at this and think, oh, I can just throw the 6 and hope for any of the diamonds and make a Badugi. While true, you're probably going to have a terrible Badugi given that King High is the highest card in the deck, and so any Badugi is basically beating you at that point. We will, however, raise our button with 6 tray. So a reasonable 2-card hand, and most of the hands you'll be playing in this game will be 2-card hands. This ace deuce here is incredibly strong. Not only do we have the 2 lowest cards, but we also have, much the same as here, we have 2 cards that our opponent will be generally looking for to some degree or another, but won't find to help them in discarding the 9 and the 8. And so our opponent draws 1, we draw 2. we miss entirely, and so because we didn't even, if we had improved one card here, we would play the cheap street, but because we're still drawing two, and our opponent was a card behind going into the draw, we will just give that one up. And so here we have a 10 low Badugi. I would have raised that on as many streets as I could for value until I was given any cause to slow down. I wouldn't have been the biggest fan of it in the world, but heads up, it's strong enough that I think we can certainly get value from it a reasonable amount of the time. So we do not improve here, and with a 2-card draw we will be giving up. Again, if we had made it to a 3-card hand drawing 1, we would have seen the cheap street and carried on. We would have raised that to 8-5-4. Here we're going to raise 7-4. 7-4 is not the strongest of holdings, but because we have the button we will draw 2. And unfortunately we don't really improve. Of course our 6 of spades is lower than the 7 of spades, but regardless we still have a 2-card draw. If they check to us we would bet, but as they've bet to us we're going to call. Not only are we both still probably drawing 1, but our 6 low is probably the winning 3-card hand, and so we will check behind. And indeed our 6-4 ace is lower than their 8 trade deuce. And so much like when you have 2 hands showing down in deuce to 7 triple draw, you compare the highest card in the hand first. And so if both players have an 8, but then one player has a 6 and one player has a 5, the hand with the 5 is winning because 5 is lower than 6. We're just going to give up here with our trash draw and no value in the pot. We're going to raise 6-8 from our button, and we are going to keep the 6 of hearts because there are less hearts for us to be receiving back, and so should we catch the queen of clubs on the end, say, then we can still make a Badugi with one more out than we could otherwise. As it happens, we catch the 3 and 4 of clubs, which isn't a bad catch. The 3 of clubs improves our hand to a 1-card draw, and the 4 of clubs is a card our opponent cannot have. We will call here. Even though our opponent's leading, they probably have some kind of a Badugi, but I think that we are drawing reasonably well still. As it turns out, they are drawing 1 card as well, so to that regard I expect them to have a fairly good 3-card hand. As such though, I can raise my 8-5 Badugi here and probably either get a fold or a call for value. And so to reiterate there, going into the 3rd round of betting, that's the round of betting before the 3rd draw, they led out and we called, but then they still drew, which tells me that they probably had a good 3-card hand that they think would be winning at showdown if both players miss. I'm going to fold 3 Broadway cards there. Just looking at the replay, they indeed did have ace deuce 5 for a 3-card draw, and so they had a very smooth 3-card draw. That's why they led into us in the 3rd round of betting there. Going to just fold 7 high here. And so it's always very interesting what you can extrapolate from the number of cards a player is drawing and when they're making their bets. Ace 5-9, we will call, and because we're out of position I'm actually going to throw the 9 of clubs, and I would just much rather play a smoother Badugi should we make one out of position. As it happens we just trade our hands for more pairs, and so we are going to keep the ace and 5. I'm not sure if we should be keeping the ace of hearts or the ace of spades here. It's such a marginal thing that I'm not too worried. We're going to lead out now that we've made a Badugi. It's not a great Badugi, but given our opponent drew 2 on the last street, we are probably ahead, and rather than giving them a chance to check raise, we are going to actually check call in this situation should they lead into us, because our hand is only losing value if we lead there. Better hands aren't folding, and so we either lose 2 bets or lose 1 bet effectively if we are losing. I could have played 7-5 there. I wasn't really paying attention. I was paying more attention to the comment I was making about the hand previous. We are just going to keep the 4 of spades and throw these other 3 cards. We catch the 6 of hearts, which is okay, and given the free draw, we are going to draw 2. The Jack of diamonds could be okay, but I'd much rather make a smoother hand, as I say, if we are going to make a Badugi. And so now we will draw 1 to our 6 low, which is really quite good. And the deuce does not help us, but we will consider, as much as this is a exactly 2 to 1 call here, I think we will be good some of the time with our 3 card 6, and so I am going to pay this bet off. And so they did make a very high Badugi, but we couldn't have known that, and we've seen this player is obviously capable of understanding when a 3 card hand should be played. And so had it been an opponent that hasn't shown a 3 card hand down the entire session, we would have been more likely to fold, assuming they must have made a Badugi when they're betting in that spot. And so the blinds are ticking up and getting forever more scary. Of course, in these sorts of spots, the higher you get in the blinds, the less freedom you have to make tricky moves and be clever, because you're more at risk of going broke if things go wrong. We catch excellent cards there in that we're now drawing to a perfect ace-deuce, and the ace and the 4 are cards our opponent can't have, and so I'm going to make an untraditional call here, given that our opponent's probably still drawing 1 and we're just drawing so perfectly. And we are going to draw a free card here on the river and hope for any diamond to call 1 bet on river. And so we are going to check down a 3 card 9. I don't think we're winning here. Even if we bet and they have a smooth 3 card hand, they're probably calling with it, as we've seen them capable of doing. And so our 9-8 deuce, our 9 deuce ace was better than their 9 high card, whatever high card they had. And so we did actually manage to win that pot. 10 jack 9 8 is no good. Ace tray 6 here is certainly worth 3 bets. We haven't 3 bet the whole session, I don't believe, and so they may give us credit just for a Badugi right here, which is unlikely, but given they've put in 2 bets, I'd expect them to come at least to the first draw, getting 5 to 1 on their call. They also have the button, which is good for them. But we have a 3 card hand that we would happy to play at showdown. But they actually time out and fold, which is interesting. They might have just been wrangling a decision, or possibly just letting themselves time out to try and achieve something else in their bedroom, kitchen, living room, wherever they happen to be playing. Poolside maybe, if they're feeling extravagant. Although, worth noting, you cannot play draw variants on the Full Tilt Poker app. That's exclusively flop games as far as I'm aware. We're going to raise 3-6 here. We get 3 bet, and so we are going to call as our hand is reasonably smooth, and for 5 to 1 I'm not just going to give up every time I'm 3 bet. We're going to call the cheap street here and draw 1, see if we can't make a Badugi with 10 low. We do indeed make that Badugi. Our opponent only has 3 bets here, and so if we raise, then we're going to have every chip in the pot. But I think I would rather just call, stamp at, and then call 1 bet on river, rather than bloating the pot. Because if we are ahead, then we would win the tournament outright. But if we are behind, then we're actually saving 1 big blind, which is actually a reasonably large portion of our stack. 10 does beat a jack, and so we would have won there outright, but I do stand by my decision to play cautiously there. With less than 3 bets here, we are going to put them all in. We are out of position, which is less ideal for this spot. If we were in position, we could draw much more mathematically favourably. But with a 3 card 6, I certainly think we will be winning this hand, given that we have a smooth 3 card hand already. And with the near nuts, we have all but locked down this heads up sit and go. And so, as I'm prone to do, we are going to, or we would have declined a rematch there. But that was good fun. I hope you enjoyed learning about what Badugi was and aren't completely lost in the fury of what just occurred with new hand ranking systems and drawing and fixed limit and everything else that this edition was. But if you enjoyed it, please feel free to like the video and comment about it on Reddit when I post it there, because if there's something that you guys want to see changed about these videos coming up in the future, then by telling me directly there is the best way to get action or change to occur. But otherwise, I hope you're all doing well and running well in your poker games. And until next time, best wishes.